Axion planes just came out a few days ago and I've been having fun running around, although the only downside is that it's very laggy. So I hope they optimize it in the future. Another thing is that the normal guns that I often use don't really do damage here for some reason. And it gets really tedious with the amount of mobs spawning. So the only solution is to have as much AoE as possible, which means I have to use some sort of ability power build instead of like beam rifles and whatnot. And I enjoyed playing Ajax since he has the froggy skill leaping around and stuff. And I also noticed some new Arche trigger that looks kinda interesting to pair with him. And there are two offensive triggers in particular, which are Battering Ram and Gap in Time, which supports your secondary and third skills separately. Battering Ram just straight up adds an additional skill to your secondary, which deals 3 instants of damage and taunts your enemy. Although the taunting part doesn't work when I tried it in Void Erosion. And the defense portion also kinda confuses me. Like, I'm not sure if it's supposed to take my defense into account when doing damage, or it's reducing the enemy's defense. As for Gap in Time, it's a great Arche trigger only if your skill doesn't have any cooldown reduction. Because the lower cooldown reduction stat you have, the higher chance it is to proc the effect. So like if you have 0% cooldown reduction stat on your Descendant, then your chance to proc Gap in Time would be 100%. Whereas if you have, let's say 80% cooldown reduction, then your chance to proc it would be 20%. I have all 4 crit mods on my Ajax to maximize critical chance. And even though Ajax has super low base crit chance, I think it's still pretty good to build it since he's very spammy. And since I'm constantly using skills, I also put the minus skill cost mods on him so that it's more comfy to spam skills. As for Arche tuning, I prioritize the crit nodes first, and then I move on to the skill power stuff. I also have cooldown reduction on my reactor instead of crit damage, since the cooldown reduction from Arche tuning requires 5 points, which is kinda a lot, and I want to spend that on other stuff instead. And in general, the build is not too terrible at clearing mobs as well as doing bosses. Even though it's not as good as Serena, I would say it's still a viable off-meta option.
계승자, 주변에서 대규모 균열체 군집이 확인됐습니다. 균열체들이 침식하고 있습니다. 군집 존재 가능성 높음.